We have a second proclamation for today, and this one is to recognize American Heritage Month. I would like to turn it over to Ms. Tanya Angie to welcome our panel for this proclamation.
Thank you, Chair Harrington and Board. And with us today is Latricia Tillman, our Chief Equity and Inclusion Officer, Megan McKibben, Staff Assistant to the Board, I just
Weaver.
met you in the... Tammy Wilson from Clean Water Services. I just met Tammy, and then I almost forgot your name, Tammy, so I apologize.
Thank you. And good morning, Chair Harrington and Commissioners. For the record, my name is Latricia Tillman. I'm the Chief Equity and Inclusion Officer. Before we talk about the Native American Heritage Month celebration, I wanted to just add my appreciation for our veterans, in particular Petty Officer Janine Smith, who's a veteran of the world's finest Navy from our Office of Equity, Inclusion, and Community Engagement, and members of my family, including my brother, Gerald Tillman, who's our retired Army Sergeant First Class. So it's a very meaningful day for all of us. As a registered member of the Siston-Wahpeton Sioux tribe, I am pleased to offer a few introductory remarks on our cultural heritage celebrations before I turn it over to Megan McKibben from Washington County and Tammy Wilson from Clean Water Services to read the proclamation. Washington County cultural heritage celebrations and resource pages are an important starting point for our collective organizational growth, engagement, and learning about equity, diversity, and inclusion. The Native American Heritage Month celebrations we will enjoy this month have been planned and organized by upwards of 10 staff who volunteered to support our learning in addition to their official work duties. These cultural celebrations offer an opportunity to establish and maintain relationships with staff and community members who identify as Native American, Indigenous, or both, to build trust and deepen our understanding of these diverse and growing communities in Washington County. These cultural celebrations also create an opportunity to learn about the historic colonialism and present oppression that the Native American and Indigenous community experiences and the community's resilience in the face of that oppression, so that we can reflect on whether or not our current policies and sentiments support the well-being of the Native American and Indigenous community and whether they dismantle racism and white supremacy. No culture is monolithic. All cultures, ethnicities, and nationalities encompass a range of diverse life experience and opinions. The U.S. government officially recognizes 574 Indian tribes in the contiguous 48 states and Alaska, and they represent 169 North American native languages. Our celebrations and resource pages for the Native American Indigenous Heritage Month celebration will offer only a small subset of these cultures and sovereign nations. Each of our Heritage Month committees are very thoughtful about the learning opportunities they share with our Washington County community, and we encourage people who may be curious about what is or is not presented or any policy implications of what is shared this month to reach out to us at the Office of Equity, Inclusion, and Community Engagement or open a dialogue with colleagues or the Planning Committee. So I just want to end my comments by thanking the members of the committee who met over the past few weeks under the leadership of Committee Chair Christina Barboza. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Megan McKibben and Tammy Wilson to read the proclamation.
Good morning, Board. Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you. My name is Megan McKibben. I work at Washington County as a staff assistant to Commissioners Pam Treese and Jerry Willey in the County Administrative Office. I started at the county in February 2021. I was raised in Northeast Portland and Cedar Mill, Oregon, graduating from Sunset High School and Oregon State University. I am a citizen of the Cherokee Nation. The Cherokee Nation is a sovereign tribal government. After the Removal Act in 1830, the Cherokee people established a new government in what is now the city of Tahlequah, Oklahoma. A constitution was adopted on September 6, 1839, 68 years prior to Oklahoma's statehood. Today, the Cherokee Nation is the largest tribe in the United States with more than 430,000 tribal citizens worldwide. More than 141,000 Cherokee Nation citizens reside within the tribe's reservation boundaries in northeastern Oklahoma. Now we'll hand it over to Tammy before we read the proclamation.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wilson. Can you hear me? From Clean Water Services. Thank you. Engineering project coordinator for Clean Water Services. And she, her. I've been a project coordinator with Clean Water Services since March 2020. And my heritage is Russian Sugpiaq from Alaska. My family is originally from Afognak Island, which is now a state park after the Exxon Valdez oil spill. And the village, traditional village, was relocated to Kodiak. Afognak Island was first colonized by the Russians, so our heritage originally spoke Alutiiq. That was then eventually, due to the colonization of the Russians, began to speak a Creole language, which was a mixture of Russian and Sugpiaq. After the United States purchased Alaska, the Creole language that my ancestors spoke was banned from being spoken in public, and my grandmother was forcibly removed from the village to the lower 48 in, I believe it was the 1930s. She didn't talk about it very much. Let's see. So now I'm here just proudly to represent Sugpiaq and Russian culture here in the land of the Kalapuya people in Washington County. So I feel very honored to be here, and thank you for allowing us to speak.
A proclamation in honor of Native American Heritage Month 2022. Whereas Washington County honors the cultures, traditions, and accomplishments of Native Americans that have shaped our country, while also acknowledging our nation's history of colonialism that has inflicted discrimination, deprivation, violence, and genocide upon Indigenous people. And whereas the area currently known as Washington County, Oregon, rests on land that was first inhabited by the Atfalati Kalipuyans, also called the Tualatin people, who flourished here for thousands of years. And whereas the arrival of white settlers in the 1830s, conflicts over their tribal lands, and the eventual theft of their homeland along the forced removal to the Grand Ronde Indian Reservation in 1856, the Atfalati people faced the destruction of their culture, lifeways, and their very existence. And whereas from 1880 through 1885, one of the first off-reservation Indian boarding schools in the nation was located in Forest Grove, where many Native children were sent to assimilate to white culture, causing them to become disconnected from their families, community, Native culture, and language. The tragic consequences of this disconnection still persist to this day through generational trauma and hardship. And whereas the Grand Ronde Indian Reservation was terminated by the United States Congress in 1954, causing the displacement and disenfranchisement of thousands of Native peoples in Oregon, including the Atfalati Kalipuyans, who are then forced to leave their former reservation, causing further loss of Native languages and culture. And
whereas the Atfalati people endure to this day as members of the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde Community of Oregon, and after overcoming numerous setbacks over the years to regain treaty-acquired land and federal recognition as a sovereign nation, the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde Community have established a successful government serving the needs of their members and also generously supporting the advancement of communities throughout Northwest Oregon. And whereas we recognize and celebrate the fact that tribal culture is rich and thriving, successfully connecting the past with future generations through Lifeways education, increasing knowledge, and the use of native language and renewed connections to ancestral homelands. And whereas we acknowledge that local government support for sovereign tribal rights to land, water, and subsistence living are vital to repairing the harm caused by colonization, racism, and government failure. And whereas we seek to repair the trauma of past oppression and broken trust, both locally and regionally, by lifting up Indigenous cultures and voices and striving together to build a future of shared hope and promise for all. We pledge to center the rights and interests of Indigenous peoples in decision-making and welcome open dialogue and courageous conversations to advance this work. Now, therefore, do I say that? Oh. Be it resolved that on this first day of November 2022, the Board of County Commissioners do hereby proclaim November 2022 as Native American and Alaska Native Heritage Month, a time to celebrate the rich and diverse cultures of Indigenous people, to raise awareness about our shared history and the continuing work of decolonization, and acknowledge the important ongoing contributions that Native Americans make in our community and across our nation.
So as you heard, the celebration of Native American Heritage Month represents both deep loss, intergenerational trauma, and painful history, as well as irrepressible community and cultural pride. And we hope that you will accept the gift of story that was shared today and will be shared throughout this month as a pathway for expanding our perspectives, for learning, and for improvement. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Chair Harrington.
Thank you very much, Ms. Tillman, Ms. McKibben, and Ms. Wilson for joining us today. I know that we strive to ensure that these proclamations are brought to life by members of our community as well as employees here at Washington County and Clean Water Services. I'd next like to ask my colleagues before we take comments and questions, I'd like to ask for a motion to adopt this proclamation.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Fye, a second from Commissioner Treese. Commissioners, questions and comments? Any?
No, thank you for doing this. Thank you for showing us some of the dress of your tribe, and certainly you sent a very strong message. So thank you for that. Thank you, Megan, for joining them. Latricia, of course, for orchestrating all of this. Happy to do this proclamation.
Yeah, thank you so much. I learned so much about you too. It's always good to, I know last year we did it differently where we involved the community, and I really enjoyed that too. So hopefully next year we can have in common, but I also appreciated our employees, Washington County staff who are Native American, and thank you for sharing your heritage. I know more about you both now, and just thank you. This was a really great proclamation and good foresight for including the staff.
Commissioner Treese?
Commissioner Rogers, I didn't know if you had unmuted. No.
I did, but nothing to add. I agree with all the comments.
Well, I just want to express my appreciation as well. I think it's really important that we look to our employees to show us cultural experiences, cultural heritage, and we learn. We learn every single day, and that's incredibly important to me. And the fact that you're brave, you have set yourself into this situation in your native dress and in your business attire to tell us what your heritage is. So thank you very much. Thank you to the entire committee for the work that goes into these celebrations. And I know that I reflect on the past and the injustices that occurred, and I will work forward and commit to working forward to rectify those and to be inclusive as we move forward with all that we do. So thank you.
Thank you, commissioners, for those comments. And as is the norm, the chair usually speaks last, so I will share my comments now. In addition to thanking the three of you, I also want to thank as Commissioner Treese did, the full Heritage Month Planning Committee, and Christina Barboza. I rewatched the meeting from last year, and I incorrectly did not recognize her for contributing to our activities. I also want to share that I continue to be in what I consider my early days of my journey in better understanding the history of the United States, colonialism, and the harm done to our indigenous cultures, including Native American and Alaskan tribes. So thank you for bringing part of that history to life, both the past and relevance to today and for future generations. I had the opportunity through the first chapter of my elected career, this being my second, to begin this journey to build trust. And there I learned that before we did work to build trust in the community, we also had to build trust here in our employees who identify as Native Americans and from indigenous cultures. And I had the benefit of attending different forums that helped me, and that included Wisdom of the Elders. But I think that in many ways, I've let my community down in this, my second chapter as an elected official. I haven't invested enough. I haven't reminded myself frequently enough to honor the experiences of the past, and particularly of members of our community and partners here in our community. I would like to apologize especially to our partners in community for our having stepped backwards last year in ensuring that we are honoring their lived experience and ensuring that we are in partnership with them to lift up voices. We don't have our partners with us here today. I want to acknowledge that. I am grateful that we have brave employees to join us today, to encourage us to continue on our journey, to encourage us and to hold us accountable. And I appreciate that, and appreciate you, Ms. Tillman, for pointing out my deficiencies gracefully and honorably so that I can address them. I have certainly learned how it is important for us to focus on reconciliation and face the whole horrible reality of past atrocities, because that is part of the process of reconciliation. And there is discomfort, of course, with that reckoning, but it is vital in the process of reconciliation. We can't just move on. We must embrace the history that has been developed, not necessarily by each of us in modern day, but by generations before us, and its impact that it has had on generations of Native Americans, and is part of the history that, quite frankly, we must overcome, each individually and as a collective body, as the Board of Commissioners here in Washington County. And it is only through the discomfort associated with the full reckoning that we begin the process of reconciliation. And from that posture of discomfort, I want to essentially repent and reconcile. the experience, our recent experience of this last year, and thank our panel today and the Planning Committee for this gift of storytelling. I hope that I have done my part to honor you and to thank you for being here and offering me the gift of learning as we move forward. I am grateful. Thank you. And with that, we have a motion to adopt this proclamation to recognize Native American History Month. And let me make sure I get the title right. Sorry, my computer has fallen asleep. This is what I get for relying upon an electronic packet. My sincere apologies. This being a proclamation in honor of Native American Heritage Month here in 2022. All those in favor of adopting today's proclamation, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously, 5-0. Thank you again.